Part 2 of Frank Randall's letter to Brianna. Now I must digress for a moment, forgive me. I think you wouldn't have heard of the Brancier. Colorful as he was, if in fact he existed, he's not really known much beyond those circles with a taste for the more outlandish aspects of Scottish history. Reggie, though, is a man of immense curiosity, as well as immense learning, and was fascinated by the seer, one Kenneth Mackenzie, who lived in the 17th century, maybe, and who made a great number of prophecies about this and that, sometimes at the behest of the Earl of Seaforth. Naturally, the only prophecies mentioned in connection with this man are the ones that appeared to come true. He predicted, for instance, that when there were 5 bridges over the Ridge Ness, the world would fall into chaos. In August 1939, the 5th bridge over the Ness was opened, and in September, Hitler invaded Poland. Quite enough chaos for anyone. And as prophets often do please remember that, darling, will you? Burnt to death in a spiked barrel of tar at the indignation of Lady Seaforth, to whom he had unwisely prophesied that her husband was having affairs with various ladies while away in Paris. That was likely very true, in my opinion. Amongst his lesser-known prophecies, though, was the one called the Fraser Prophecy. This isn't a great deal known about this, and what there is a rambling and vague, as prophecies usually are, Old Testament notwithstanding. The only relevant bit, I think, is this. The last of the Lovetts line will rule Scotland. Pause, if you will now, dear, and look at the paper I am enclosing with this letter. And then he encloses the Fraser family tree, which shows Brianna as the last of the Lovett line. Yes, well, this is a bit of disturbing information that came into my hands from Reggie, who had it from the wife of a fellow named Stuart Lachlan. He died suddenly, and his widow was clearing out his desk. She found this and decided to pass it on to Reggie, knowing that they shared a love of history. Blah, blah, blah. Goes on a little bit more about that family, and then he says, you likely know nothing about the Scottish aristocracy. But I knew Simon Lovat, Lord Lovat that is, in the war. He was commander, then special forces. We weren't close friends, but we knew each other casually in the way of business, you might say. Of Lovat have a fairly straightforward line of descendant until we come to Old Simon. Well, they're all called Simon, the one they call the Old Fox, who was executed for treason after the Jacobite Rebellion, the 45, they call it. Quite a bit about him in my book on the Jacobites. Don't know if you'll ever read it, but it's there should you feel curious. Simon was one of the more colorful Frasers in assorted ways. He had 3 wives, but was not famous for fidelity. He did have a few legitimate children, and God knows how many illegitimate ones, though 2 illegitimate sons were acknowledged. His heir was young Simon, known as the Young Fox. Young Simon survived the Rising. Though attainted and stripped of his property, he eventually got most of it back through the courts, but the struggle took him most of his long life, and while he was married, he did so at a very advanced age and had no children. His younger brother Archibald inherited, but then died childless as well. Archibald was the last of the Lovat line. There's a direct line of descendant between him and the Fraser of Lovat, who would have been concurrent with the Brancier, but clearly he wasn't the Scottish ruler foreseen. You see the chart, though. Whoever made it has listed 2 illegitimate sons, as well as young Simon and his brother Alexander and Brian, born to different mothers. Alexander entered the priesthood and became the abbot of a monastery in France. No known children. Brian, and then she looks again, had James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, who married Claire Elizabeth Beesham, and they had a child, Brianna Ellen Randall Nee Fraser. The current line of Fraser of Lovat is descendant from a collateral branch. Presumably, the Fraser prophecy isn't referring to one of them, though there are plenty of heirs in that line. I don't know who drew this chart, but I do intend to find out. This letter is in case I don't, in case of a number of things. One of the things being the possibility that your mother's story is true. You'll have difficulty believing it. When I wake in the morning beside her and everything is so normal, but late at night, when I'm alone with the documents, well, why not admit it? I found the record of their marriage, James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser and Claire Elizabeth Beesham. I'm not sure whether to be grateful or outraged that she didn't marry him using my name. It's hard to keep emotion out of this, but I'll try. The essence of what I'm saying is this. If you can indeed go back in time and possibly return, you are a person of very great interest to a number of people for assorted reasons. Should anyone in the more shadowed realm of government be halfway convinced that you are what you may be, you would be watched, possibly approached. In earlier centuries, the British government presented men into service. They still do, if less obvious. It's a very remote contingency, but it's a real one. I must mention it. There are private parties who would also have a deep interest in you for this reason. Evidently, there is someone who has spotted you and is watching. The chart showing your line of descendant with dates indicates that much. It also suggests that this person or persons of interest may be a concern with the Fraser prophecy. What could be more intriguing to that sort of person than the prospect of someone who is the last of the Lovett's line and is also a time traveler? These sorts of people, I know them well, invariably believe in mystic powers of all sorts. Nothing would draw them more powerfully than the conviction that you hold such power. Such people are usually harmless, but they can be very dangerous indeed. If I find whoever drew this chart, I will question them and do my best to neutralize any possible threat to you. But as I say, I know the look of a conspiracy. Nutters of this sort thrive in company. I might miss one. Don't, I repeat, don't go anywhere near the service or anyone connected with it. At best, they'd think you insane. But if you are indeed what you may be, the last people who should ever know are the funny buggers, as we used to be known during the war. And if worse should come to worst, and you can do it, then the past may be your best avenue of escape. I have no idea how it works. Neither does your mother. At least she says so. Hope I may have given you a few tools to help, if it should be necessary. Your mother said that Fraser sent her back to me, knowing that I would protect her and you. She thought that he died immediately afterward. He did not. I looked for him, and I found him. And like him, perhaps I send you back, knowing as he knew of me, that he will protect you with his life. I will love you forever, Brianna, and I know whose child you truly are. With all my love, Dad.